Testing, 1 million, 2 million, okay.
You get very rich. And you won't have to be very bright.
Yeah,
I'm sure. I said, your plan sounds to me a lot like saving up sex for your old age.
What's the secret of that?
You find your passion. You find your passion. I was very, very lucky here, but you have to be in love with the subject. You can't just be in love with the money. We do look for intelligence and energy and integrity, and our managers overwhelmingly come with the businesses that we buy, so we have the chance to look at what they've done over 20 or 30, 40 years business. When we buy a business, we're looking at a management that's been there for a long time. We can see their performance. We can see how they've behaved in difficult situations. We can see how they've treated their employees and customers, and we can get a very good reading on them.
You would be better off if when you got out of school here, you got a punch card with 20 punches on it. And every financial decision you made, you used up a punch. You'd get very rich because you'd think through very hard each one. But if you had a punch card with only 20 punches, you weren't going to get another one the rest of your life. You would think a long time before every investment decision. And you would make good ones and you'd make big ones. And you probably wouldn't even use all 20 punches in your lifetime, but you wouldn't need to.
I don't know what the equivalent of Moody's manuals or anything would be now, but I would try and know everything about everything small, and I would find something. And with $1 million, you could earn 50% a year, but you have to be in love with the subject. You can't just be in love with the money. You really got to just find it like essentially like, people find other things in other fields because they just love looking for it. A biologist looks for something because they want to find something. And that's built into. I don't know how the human brain works that much, and I don't think anybody understands too well how the human brain works. But there's different people that just find it exciting to expand their knowledge in a given area. I know great bridge players. I know great chess players, actually. Kasparov came to Omaha and met Mrs. B. I've had the luck of, they all have a passion for what they do. They are not doing it for the money. At least 3/4 of the managers we have at Berkshire Hathaway are independently wealthy. They do not need to go to work in the morning. They go there because they love what they're doing. It's creative. I liken it to painting a painting. They are painting a painting that they see in their mind, and it's never finished. They get to keep working on it every day. They get to work on it the way they want to, and they inspire others because that passion brings out enthusiasm and a dedication in others that if they were just kind of going through the motions, sort of sleepwalking through their jobs, you just wouldn't get. Now, I never wanted an institution. I wanted people, and I didn't want people that were sitting around and having people present to them every 3 months and tell them what they wanted to hear and all that sort of thing. So, and that's what we got, and that's why we've got this group here today. So it's all worked out.
Warren, what do you consider the most important quality for an investment manager?
It's a temperamental quality, not an intellectual quality. You don't need tons of IQ in this business. I mean, you have to have enough IQ to get from here to downtown Omaha, but you do not have to be able to play three-dimensional chess or be in the top leagues in terms of bridge playing or something of the sort. You need a stable personality. You need a temperament that neither derives great pleasure from being with the crowd or against the crowd, because this is not a business where you take polls. It's a business where you think. And Ben Graham would say that you're not right or wrong because 1,000 people agree with you. And you're not right or wrong because 1,000 people disagree with you. You're right because your facts and your reasoning are right.
Warren, what really wonderful business is very well protected against the vicissitudes of the economy over time and the competition. I mean, we're talking about businesses that are resistant to effective competition. And 3 of those will be better than 100 average businesses. And they'll be safer, incidentally. I mean, there is less risk in owning 3 easy to identify wonderful businesses than there is in owning 50.
Patience. It's a combination of patience and a willingness to do something that afternoon if it comes to you. You don't want to be patient about acting on deals that make sense, and you don't want to be very patient with people that are talking to you about things that will never happen. So it's not a constant asset. It's not a constant liability to be patient. Greg, you meeting a lot of people that are unbelievably smart in their own arena and do some unbelievably dumb things in other areas. So all I know is the human brain is complicated, but it does its best when you find out what your brain is really suited for, and then you just pound the hell out of it from that point. And that's what I would be doing if I had a small amount of money and I wanted to make 50% a year, but I also wanted to just play the game. And you can't do it if you don't find the game of interest, whether it's bridge or whether, whatever it may be, chess, or in this case, finding securities that are undervalued. But it's not.
First rule in investment is don't lose. And the second rule in investment is don't forget the first rule. And that's all the rules there are. I mean, that if you buy things for far below what they're worth and you buy a group of them, you basically don't lose money. The real test of whether you're investing from a value standpoint or not is whether you care whether the stock market is open tomorrow. If you're making a good investment in a security, it shouldn't bother you if they close down the stock market for 5 years.
And the main thing you have to do is you have to be willing to hang up after 5 seconds, and you have to be willing to say yes after 5 seconds. And
Absolutely.
And you can't be filled with self-doubt in the business. You just forget it isn't going to work. Go into some other activity. But you also, one of the great pleasures, it is the great pleasure actually in this business, is having people trust you. And that's really why work at 90 when you've got more money than anybody can count. If they started today and having machines that are helping them and everything else. And it means nothing in terms of how you're going to live or how your children are going to live or anything else. But both Charlie and I, we just enjoyed the fact that people trusted us, and they trusted us 60 years ago or 70 years ago in partnerships we had. You don't want to be patient when things are going your way. When the time comes to act, you want to get it done that day.
And a short focus is not conducive to long profits. And here I can just focus on what businesses are worth.
We think diversification is, as practice generally, makes very little sense for anyone that knows what they're doing.
I don't have to make money in every game. I don't know what cocoa beans are going to do. There are all kinds of things I don't know about. And that may be too bad, but, why should I know all about them? I haven't worked that hard on them.
If you know how to analyze businesses and value businesses, it's crazy to own 50 stocks or 40 stocks or 30 stocks probably, because there aren't that many wonderful businesses that are understandable to a single human being in all likelihood. And to have some super wonderful business and then put money in number 30 or 35 on your list of attractiveness and forego putting more money into number 1 just strikes Charlie and me as madness 10 years later. So understanding the economic characteristics of a business is different than predicting the fact that an industry is going to do wonderfully. So when I look at the internet businesses or I look at tech businesses, I say this is a marvelous thing, and I love to play around on the computer. And now I order my books from Amazon and all kinds of things, but I don't know who's going to win. Unless I know who's going to win, I'm not interested in investing. I'll just play around on the computer. And defining your circle of competence is the most important aspect of investing. It's not how important, how large your circle is. You don't have to be an expert on everything.
But knowing where the perimeter of that circle of what you know and what you don't know is, and staying inside of it, is all important.
I could pick out 3 of our businesses, and I would be very happy if they were the only businesses we owned and I had all my money in Berkshire. Now, I love it, the fact that we can find more than that and that we keep adding to it. But 3 wonderful businesses is more than you need in this life to do very well.
Read and read and read. I probably read 5 to 6 hours a day. I don't read as fast. You've got to start a story with a hypothesis. I mean, you're looking into something because you have a working hypothesis, but you have to give up that hypothesis if it turns out not to be correct, or if it's misleading in a major way. So it's my working hypothesis that it is. But then I go and look for the facts, and I try not to be selective about the facts that I use as input. So I would say that you should always observe that rule about not letting the hypothesis determine the story. B, you've got to learn. You've got to learn about accounting. You've got to learn about how business works if we're talking about business journalism. And you can always get smarter.
I was up at Harvard a while back, and a very nice young guy picked me up at the airport, Harvard Business School attendee, and he said, look, I went to undergrad here, and then I worked for X and Y and Z, and now I've come here. And he said, I thought it would really round out my resume perfectly if I went to work now for a big management consulting firm. And I said, well, is that what you want to do? And he said, no, but he said, that's the perfect resume. And I said, well, when are you going to start doing what you like? And he said, well, I'll get to that someday. And I said, well, I said, your plan sounds to me a lot like saving up sex for your old age. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And, I told that same group, I said, go to work for whomever you admire the most. And I said, you can't get a bad result. You'll jump out of bed in the morning and you'll be having belief that I should expect to make money in things that I understand. And when I say understand, I don't mean understand, what the product does or anything like that. I mean, understand what the economics of the business are likely to look like 10 years from now or 20 years from now. You really want to be in a wonderful business because the time is the friend of the wonderful business. You keep compounding, it keeps doing more business, and you keep making more money. Time is the enemy of the lousy business. That's my philosophy, is that I got this money, not because I'm a superior human being, not because I've done more for society than other people. I was wired the right way to be dropped into the United States. And if I'd been dropped down in Peru or someplace or China, I wouldn't have had a chance. So society is what does it for you. And it should go back, in my view, it should go back to society. If you've been lucky enough to be dropped into a society where your particular wiring pays off big, that's just luck. And there's nothing wrong with being lucky. If you can stay objective throughout that, if you can detach yourself temperamentally from the crowd, you get very rich, and you won't have to be very bright. I'm sure you are, but it doesn't take brains; it takes temperament.
But tap dancing to work, Warren. How can other people tap dance to work? What's the secret of that?
You find your passion. I was very, very lucky to find it. When I was 7 or 8 years old, and fortunately, my children have found their passion. One son loves farming like nothing else. One son loves music like everything else. And all 3 of them love philanthropy and what they get to do. You're lucky in life when you find it. And you can't guarantee you're going to find it in your first job out. But I always tell the college students that come out, I say, take the job that you would take if you were independently wealthy. You're going to do well at it.
Break a little, that's the story of love.